Hello there, brother Bluebell, play me a tune today. The breezes on the meadow have made you look so gay. The meadowlarks are singing, joy's in the air. Come set your bells a-ringing, you've gladness to share. Hello there, sister Dewdrop, linger a little while. Your colors in the sunlight would make a monarch smile. What need have I for treasures, diamonds or gold? The sweetest of all pleasures are here to behold. Hello there, dearest kinsmen, pebbles and laughing brooks, you timid little beetles that hide in private nooks. God made us of his gladness, come then and sing, to cure the world of sadness, so ring, Bluebell, ring. To cure the world of sadness, so ring, Bluebell, ring.
Like St. Francis of Assisi, let us greet our fellow creatures lovingly. Eternally they belong to us and we to them, for we are one in God. In this brief introduction and also statement in his book, Art is a Hidden Message, that I'll read a little bit later, Swami Kriyananda describes that Hello There, Brother Bluebell was inspired by the innocently joyful life of St. Francis of Assisi. And this is the primary nature of the song. It's got a lot of innocence and childlike joy and openness, which is a contrast to the rather cynical and serious-minded so-called adult consciousness that many grown-ups cling to. And thus, right out here at the outset, we can see that this song serves as an antidote for cynicism, among other negative emotions. The Swami Kriyananda refers to this piece as a children's song, but as with all of his so-called children's songs, the label doesn't mean that they're meant only for children. In a way, we are all children of God, and so they all are meant for us in that respect. But even so, as a children's song, it's really to say it has childlike consciousness. And so anyone that wants to have more simpler, more childlike qualities in your life can benefit from it. In Hello There, Brother Bluebell especially, the lyrics are words that you would speak, if you might think of it that way, you would speak to different things in the natural world, addressing them directly as suggested by Kriyananda's introduction and St. Francis's life. The first lines of each verse, in fact, have that kind of conversation in it, right? Hello there, Brother Bluebell, play me a tune today. Hello there, Sister Dewdrop, linger a little while. Hello there, dearest kinsmen, pebbles and laughing brooks. Talking to nature as if it's sentient, which of course it is. Everything is made from God's consciousness and has consciousness as its fundamental reality. But that kind of discussion with things in the natural world is what adults would usually consider to be a rather childish act. And yet if we look at the lives of many saints and mystics like St. Francis, they've spoken of feeling that kinship with life in this way. I think of George Washington Carver, who said that if you love something enough, it will speak to you. And he proved this in his own life in his botanical work with the humble peanut, which he said revealed then hundreds of different uses for itself, which became instrumental in revitalizing the economy of the southern United States after the American Civil War. I also think of the great horticulturist Luther Burbank, who was a Kriya Yoga disciple of Yogananda, and to whom Autobiography of a Yogi is dedicated. And he is famed, among many other things, for developing a spineless cactus, which he said was accomplished not just by crossbreeding, but by talking to the cactus over successive generations, telling it that it's loved, that it no longer needs to protect itself, and therefore can withdraw its spines. In Hello There, Brother Bluebell, then, we're really encouraged to speak with nature with that loving innocence and joy of a child, asking the bluebell to share its gladness, telling the dewdrop that it's worth more than diamonds or gold, and then through that sense of kinship with all life, feeling that God made us all of his gladness. And in this realization, the song says we have the cure for sadness, not just for ourselves, but the world at large. To cure the world of sadness, oh ring, bluebell, ring. Other qualities of the song address other commonplace negative so-called adult qualities as well. The simplicity in its consciousness counters complexity. Its cheerfulness counters both sadness and gloominess. Its celebratory lightness, part of that cheerfulness, counters dourness. And its openness and receptivity to the wonders of creation counter that kind of dry analytical thinking that's always reducing everything into so-called scientific principles and whatnot, which often leads people to a sense of meaninglessness. And Bluebell can really help reopen rekindle that kind of wonder. Bluebell also encourages us to find joy everywhere, and especially in the small and simple things, the little flowers, the sparkles, the rainbows and the dewdrops, the breezes, the pebbles, the beetles, the small rivulets of water, and the singing birds and so on. It tells us to find joy in these rather than the large so-called treasures that we normally associate with happiness, the wealth, the position, the property, and so forth. And then in our oneness with these small things, we realize that human beings aren't somehow above all these other pieces of creation simply because we have the most self-awareness out of different life forms. Which is to say that feeling kinship with all these different things doesn't reduce us or lower us down to their levels. It rather helps us realize that no matter how great we think we may be, we must yet be humble before God, who dwells not only in every plant and every animal and every insect, but indeed in the heart of every atom. It's interesting that it's said that human beings on our scale of experience are midway between the grandest scale of the known universe and the tiniest scale in things like subatomic particles, that we exist right there in the middle of that. And it's the realization that we can relate to realities that are much bigger and much smaller than us, that especially the smaller, that counters the attitude of snobbery, which is that kind of sneering at the simple things in life with the thought that, well, I have more important things to do. My reality is the only one that really matters. And that also counters what I would say is human arrogance, or the anthropomorphic pride, which is the consciousness that leads to it leads to the ideas that humans should dominate and exploit nature. And that's the same consciousness that's led to so many of our ecological and environmental problems. Now, inwardly, Bluebell resonates quite clearly with the heart chakra in its love and openness, as well as the throat chakra in its expansive kinship with everything and with God in everything. But the expansion here isn't about feeling oneness so much with the grand and infinite cosmic God, but with the infinitesimal God. Because infinite means infinitesimal as well, and expansiveness doesn't mean just to the farthest reaches of eternity, as Yogananda says in his poem Samadhi, but also to the various tiny atom, that expansion inwardly. And it's also very true about experiencing God in the present moment rather than trying to expand into God across the eons of time and timelessness. And indeed, if we go to that poem, Samadhi, where again we have phrases like, creation's molding furnace and glaciers of silent X-rays and vapors of nebulae, all these grand cosmic images, there are also the phrases about the little things, every blade of grass, each particle of universal dust, the sparrow and each grain of sand fall not without my sight. This idea of that kinship with the small brings us to this assignment of the negative emotion of low self-esteem. This is the quality of Secrets of Emotional Healing in day 29 to which Ananda assigned this song, What he says there is that the secret of overcoming low self-esteem is to realize that you are an integral part of everything that is, sustained forever by that power which brought the very universe into existence. Open your heart to life. Cease seeing yourself as a lonely planet, waterless on an empty desert. Here one is really forced to pause and think about this irony of how does deepening the thought of humbleness toward God and moving away from attitudes of pride and arrogance actually work to counter low self-esteem. Because you would think it would be the opposite, that it takes a certain amount of pride in oneself especially to overcome that negative state. But the truth is that while you may need a little bit of that pride to actually think yourself worthy of life and worthy of God's love in the beginning, eventually it becomes an obstacle. Because thinking poorly of yourself is very much the result of setting yourself above other people, and especially that kind of human pride that sets itself above everything else in creation. Because what pride does is cut you off from that greater reality, which eventually forces you to come face to face with just how small and impotent you really are in the face, how much you really are impotent in isolation in the face of that greater reality. And in that contractive selfishness and small-mindedness, you have to admit eventually that there's no possibility you could become important in the eyes of the universe in any way. And so when you start feeling that and you're trying to solve it without self-expansion, what you end up doing is putting on layers and layers of pride and self-aggrandizement, which just, again, only deepens that sense of non-importance. And so pride, being really a cover-up for insecurity and low self-esteem, is why a song like this that helps that inner expansion helps to overcome that quality. Because really, once you join with that greater reality all around you as an equal partner, then you allow yourself to gradually expand into all of creation, again, into the large and into the small. And by acknowledging the value of even the smallest details of creation, you find that you too have a value in the cosmic scheme. As Sri Yukteswar said in Autobiography of a Yogi, God created each man as a soul dowered with individuality and hence essential to the universal structure. And elsewhere he says in the same book too that every atom is dowered with individuality and thus must also be essential to the universal structure, and then so must all those different things we see in nature, all the little things, including each particle of universal dust. Every piece has its value, every piece has its worthiness in God's eyes. Now musically, again, Bluebell here resonates with the heart and the throat chakras, serving to lift some of the negative energies and emotions of the heart up into self-expansion. The rising notes at the end of each verse are also important because what they're doing is kind of making an assault on the ego here at the medulla oblongata, which is to say the blocking ego that has all that pride and that arrogance that becomes the issue. So by lifting energy from the heart and the throat and kind of directing it upward toward the medulla, it's really trying to soften that medulla and soften the ego. Or, if you prefer a stronger metaphor, it can really be just pounding on the ego and attacking it in some way, as if to ask, why, O selfish ego, are you so resistant to this feeling of expansive kinship with all life? What is it that you're clinging to? And so that movement of energy, softening that ego, is trying to overcome the small-mindedness and the selfishness and keeping the energy rising. And this is what Ananda actually writes about this choice of notes in chapter 4 of Art as a Hidden Message, as I mentioned earlier. And let me read that excerpt to you. He says, "It is tempting, of course, to relax one's efforts once one feels his point has been adequately made. I remember the last note of a children's song I once wrote, which is Hello, the Brother Bluebell. There were two directions for the melody to go. One of them was downward, the other upward. The lower note would have ended the song in a mood of relaxation and perhaps sleepiness. A legitimate ending, actually, except for one thing. The song expressed high energy, and it was inspired by the joyfully innocent life of St. Francis of Assisi." And now what he's referring to there is that last line, To cure the world of sadness, oh ring, bluebell, ring. You see it stays up, which it could have gone, to cure the world of sadness, oh ring, bluebell, ring, ring. I can't go, but you can see it. Ring, bluebell, ring, ring. I think that's the low note. You'd have to come all the way down to the tonic there. Ring, bluebell, ring, which would have made that sleepiness. So he goes on to say, then musical convention and the melody also at that point suggested the possibility of a sleepy ending. But was relaxation, I asked myself, the mood expressed by these lyrics? Surely not. The other alternative, he continues, was to take the last note higher, as it does, an unexpected ending in this case. This choice suggests a release also, but upward, as if into a sort of superconsciousness. The decision was, in terms of the mood of that song, an important one. And he says, I've always been glad that I decided to take the high road toward a more expanded awareness. So we have that rising note toward an expanded awareness constantly working on the medulla, and it's finally in those tags at the end of the song, to cure the world of sadness, oh ring, bluebell, ring, that repeat, finally succeed in overcoming the ego and allowing the energy to rise up here to that full expansiveness in the spiritual eye. So at the end of the song then, we've become the bluebell through our kinship and through our gladness. And indeed, curing the world of sadness begins with ourselves. As Ananda writes in his book, Secrets of Bringing Peace on Earth, he says the secret of bringing peace on earth is to begin with that little piece of earth on which you already stand. You know, too many people are waiting and waiting and waiting for something external to bring them happiness. The right job, the right relationships, the right possessions, the right politicians, the right laws, the right social behaviors, and even a quality I think that devotees fall into is expecting and saying, you know, we're not going to be satisfied until we have the right experiences in meditation. But really, Bluebell here is telling us something different. It's saying, find happiness in the here and now, where alone it can be found. That's the pure heart, free from ambition, from desires, from greed, from selfishness, and all other those meannesses of the heart and those negative emotions that we've discussed. And then here I think is the really wonderful part in the imagery in this song, is that when we can purify the heart, that's when we can truly hear the bluebell ringing. For what is it? The sound of the pure heart chakra is, in fact, a ringing bell. Now, before we enjoy the last track here, I wanted to just show a few more about some of the photographs that I'm using in the short little slideshow, and show you kind of the context in they were, because these are photographs I've taken where I really chose to take what was a larger scene and look at the details, look at the small instead of the large. So this first photograph is just showing a morning scene on a camping trip many years ago, and there was dew all over the ground, but as I got down closer, I was just really touched by the diamonds. As the song says, diamonds are gold, you know, but here's a diamond in a dewdrop down here in the crook of this small little plant that, again, in this first picture here, you wouldn't necessarily notice if you're looking only at the human scale. And then here's another example. This was a hike in Rocky Mountain National Park some years ago, where you would normally just walk by all these little bushes and things on the side. You know, you're out there looking at the grand mountains and so forth, but I'd noticed that there were these wonderful little flowers down here, just small, humble flowers, and as I got closer and closer, we could see just some really gorgeous beauty and detail here in the infinitesimal, you might say. And on that same hike, here's another photograph of where you could see the expansive grand mountains and this beautiful trail and all that. But then looking closer again, on the side of the trail were these little tiny wildflowers that, as I got closer and closer, just revealed even more details and beauty, to the point where I got to here, which is one of my, I might say, all-time favorite photographs that I've taken of just these tiny little humble bell flowers on this little bush on the side of a trail in this great, huge national park, that yet have so much meaning for us and so much of touching that joy and that kinship with everything in all life that we can truly appreciate. So let's now enjoy the four-part recording, the harmony with the Joy Singers here of Hello There, Brother Bluebell.
Hello there, Brother Bluebell, play me a tune today. The breezes on the meadow have made you look so gay. The meadowlarks are singing, joy's in the air. Come set, your bells are ringing, you've gladness to share. Hello there, Sister Dewdrop, linger a little while. Your colors in the sunlight would make a monarch smile. What need have I for treasures, diamonds or gold? The sweetest of all pleasures are here to behold. Hello there, dearest kinsmen, pebbles and laughing brooks, you timid little beetles that hide in private nooks. God made us of his gladness, come then and sing. To cure the world of sadness, so ring, Bluebell, ring. To cure the world of sadness, so ring, Bluebell, ring. To cure the world of sadness, so ring, Bluebell, ring.